Hey Art Nerds, I return to you with another alcohol marker review. Today we're taking a look at the sketch markers. These were purchased from Marker Universe during their 25% off earlier in October. There's going to be a full transcript underneath this video, so if I talk too fast or if you're missing anything, make sure you check the description below for links, other relevant videos, and the transcript. So I purchased the morning set of 12 colors that you see here, as well as a few Openstock colors. Sketch markers are made in Slovenia. This info was on the package, but otherwise I wouldn't have found that out, and I couldn't even really find it on their website either. Openstock, these markers are $5.39 through Marker Universe, and the morning set was $64.68 through Marker Universe. But with 25% off, I didn't pay quite that much. And these markers were purchased with funds from Patreon, so thank you to my wonderful patrons for sponsoring this video. These sort of reviews would not be possible without their support, so if you enjoy the work I do, please consider joining me on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. So these markers use Japanese alcohol-based ink. They have 389 total colors in their range, which is quite a lot more than the graphite markers we took a look at recently. Refillable ink is available. They are twin-tipped brush and chisel. The nibs are replaceable, and they're also available in regular sketch marker, bullet and chisel, and Sketchmarker Brush Pro, which we're taking a look at today. The Sketchmarker's website is sketchmarkers.club/en, but it does seem a little bit empty right now. They also make sketchbooks, paper pads, lettering pins, aka brush pins, liner pins, and marker wallets, and I'd love to take a look at some of their sketchbooks and paper pads in the future. So the packaging, the morning set came wrapped in a plastic bag, and I gotta wonder why more waste. And it's a nylon wallet with a paper belly band that you guys saw a moment ago. This is a 12-piece set, and the wallet itself uses a single band of elastic for each marker. The packaging, the case itself isn't quite as nice as some of the other alcohol marker cases I've had in the past. Even the Utrecht cases are pretty nice, but it came free with these markers, and I do love reusable packaging. It also came with a swatch book, which is really nice because Copic markers sure don't come with a swatch book. You got to buy that separately, or you got to print your own. So this is a great way to keep track of the markers you already have in your collection. As you guys could see, it accordion folds out and it's printed single side, so you could even pin this up on your wall. So the morning set is a 12-piece set, like I said, and Sketchmarker Brush. Woo! Are high-quality professional markers with soft brush. Absolutely safe and no toxic. Markers are made from high-quality components for creative people with different skills, from beginners to professional designers. They are suitable for all types of creative work, including sketching, illustration, manga, comics, design, graffiti, hobby, etc. Sketchmarker Brush have two nibs, soft brush and broad chisel. Nibs are replaceable and produced in Japan. Markers are refillable, and the colors in this set are cream, rose champagne, mango, pale turquoise, umber, steel blue, periwinkle, marble, gray tint, ice pearl, English rose, and daisy. So they're all basically pastel colors. The colors are non-toxic, conform to ASTM D4236, and are made in China. And legit, I like that they mention manga in comics because I feel seen. Alcohol markers are quite popular with comic artists, and outside of Copic, Color, and Neopico, it seems many companies kind of forget to market to us at all. So the wallet itself is a little flimsy compared to Copic's wallets, but it came with a set and is sturdy enough. It's made of nylon with sketch marker screened on the front. The zipper pouch on the back could hold pencils, a couple of erasers, maybe replacement nibs, but definitely could not fit too many markers in there. And inside was a lot of stuff, as you guys just saw. A business card with social media information, a color palette book so you can keep track of your markers, what seems like a sample of their marker paper with line art so you could play around with the markers and get used to it, and stickers, although half of them were ruined from being in the fold, so they might want to figure out a better way to package those stickers. The markers are held by a single elastic loop, and you can sort of fold the wallet into an easel, but that's probably not the intention. And of course, I also purchased a few Openstock, as you guys can see here, just to kind of have enough that I could actually do a review. So the markers themselves, I only purchased the Sketchmarker Pro markers, not the regular sketch markers. As you guys know, I'm a fan of brush markers. I sincerely hope these markers are a good fit for my mishmash collection of alcohol markers because I really like some of the colors in this range. These are round body alcohol markers with a fairly slim profile, similar to the Copic Chow. Body screening reads Sketchmarker Brush and designates the chisel and brush ends. The chisel is further designated by a gray collar, which is kind of unusual as it's usually the brush end that receives that designation. The graphite markers also had this sort of designation with the collar on the smaller end. The markers themselves do feel a bit light. Uncapping these markers is a little bit difficult as the body of the marker is glossy and the only thing to prevent rolling are the notches on both caps. The color name is on the barcode sticker on the body as well as on the cap and includes the color family. The brush seems like foam rubber and is comparable to Copic. Actually, both of the ends seem kind of comparable to Copic. The foam rubber nib is about the same length, but we'll do a head-to-head comparison in a minute, and the chisel seems pretty much identical to the Copic chisel. So if you already have some Copic markers, if you already have some Blick Studio brush markers, these could be a good addition to your marker family. My only concern is the price without a sale can be a little bit steep. So over the years, I have done a lot of marker reviews here on the channel as well as on the blog. It's kind of like the bread and butter of what I do, is trying to find good, inexpensive alcohol markers that I can recommend to other people. So there's certain points that I'm always looking for because those are points that I care about the most when I'm creating marker art. A good brush nib is high priority for me. So we have quite a selection of alcohol markers to compare our sketch markers to today. We're going to be comparing the Sketchmarker brush markers, the graphite brush markers, Ohuhu brush markers, Deleter Neopico Color, Color, Blick Studio Brush, Prismacolor Brush, Copic Sketch, and Copic Chow. And most of these are brush and chisel with the exception of the graphite, Color, Neopico, and Prismacolor. All are brush tips, although Ohuhu and graphite seem to have compressed fiber brushes rather than foam rubber. And you can find reviews for almost all of these markers here on the channel, and the ones you can't find here on the channel, you can find them at nattosoup.blogspot.com. Those would be some of my older reviews. I'll have some of them linked down in the description below as well as in the cards in case you're on the market for good alcohol markers. So these are quite a selection of popular alcohol markers. Some of them are more popular in other countries or perhaps more popular in other types of art circles, but they're all fairly popular markers. I included the graphite marker because that was a more recent review. I bought them at the same time, and I thought it would be fun to compare them. So let's go ahead and compare the ones that are the most alike. By removing the ones that are the least alike, we're comparing the Sketchmarker Brush, the Blick Studio, the Copic Sketch, and the Copic Chow. Although, hey, for funsies, let's remove the caps, take a look at the caps, and take a look at the brushes and the other ends, because not all of these are chisel markers, before we go ahead and we narrow down our selection, just so that you guys can see. And if you're interested in a big, mega alcohol marker comparison video, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to do that for you guys. Markers do cycle in and out. Companies cycle in and out markers. I feel like a lot of art supply companies think, oh, alcohol markers, everybody loves those. Let me just quickly pop one out for the market, and then it doesn't do well, and then they disappear, or they rebrand them, or they retool them. So sometimes it can make it a little bit challenging to do a big overview of markers, because if I'm doing a big overview of markers, I want it to last for a couple years. I want it to be useful for a couple years. So I want to focus on markers that seem like they're going to stick around on the market. So I would probably do a comparison of course, Copic. Lots of people know about Copic. The Ohuhu brush markers. Lots of people really like the Ohuhu brush markers. Prismacolor. I like Prismacolor. They've been on the US market for decades, and I know they get kind of crapped on a lot, but they're not bad alcohol markers. They've definitely got some big saving graces. The Blick Studio brush markers, because I love those things, and then maybe a couple more unusual markers that I think you guys should know about. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy watching, let me know down in the description below. So I have mentioned this in other videos, but if you're new to my channel, I do have early onset arthritis. I'm 34, I draw every day, I have a death grip on any art supply that reaches my hands, so comfort is important, and that's one of the reasons I run the Artist Reviews Mechanical Pencils series on this channel as well, is to find comfortable pencils for people who might have grip problems or might have arthritis problems. And this can still extend all the way to alcohol markers. You know, people think big alcohol markers are easier and more comfortable to use, but that's only true if you've got larger hands or you're not used to smaller art supplies. I personally find smaller art supplies to be more comfortable for my tiny wee baby hands. So it really comes down to you and your personal preferences. So when I talk about whether or not these markers are comfortable for me to hold, you gotta look at my tiny baby hands and keep that in mind. So we're gonna go ahead and cap the markers that are not making it in our final comparison cut. Made a goof there. It needs to go on the Prismacolor marker. And that narrows us down to just 4, which, like I said earlier, are the Sketchmarker Brush, the Blick Studio, the Copic Sketch, and the Copic Chow. So all 4 of these are refillable. They have replaceable nibs, foam rubber brushes, and chisel nibs. And of course, the Copic Chow and the Copic Sketch are both by Copic. I happen to like both of them a lot, but the Chow does have a smaller range of markers, although Copic's been introducing more markers to that range as time progresses. So the brushes on these are all pretty comparable, same size, all seem to be foam rubber, not ribbit, rubber. Chisel on the Sketchmarker brush is larger than the rest, but otherwise they're pretty similar. And I'm kind of curious as to why it's larger than the rest. That would be useful in filling in large areas though. And honestly, this marker body seems really similar to some of the cheaper markers I've reviewed in the past, with the exception of a much better brush nib rather than a bullet. Anybody with an astute memory remember which? Let me know in the comments. It's probably from my work way back in my Alibaba blogging days, but gosh, I reviewed a lot of markers back then. So for swatching, we are swatching in my Strathmore Mixed Media Sketchbook. This is my 4th one. I've done so many alcohol marker reviews. This is the same paper I use for all of my alcohol marker tests because consistency is king, and you guys can see a few of my other alcohol marker reviews here. This is the Shuttle Art markers, I believe. We just passed the Milo Pro markers. Coming up is probably the Color It markers. Yep, there's the Color It markers. And then we have the Ohuhu brush markers here, which I actually really liked, and I recommend them as a very affordable alcohol marker for people who are just starting to get into alcohol markers. Very accessible. And then we have the Graphite markers. Oh no, I'm sorry, the Tombow ABT Pro markers, and then the Graphite markers. So I've been doing a lot of alcohol marker reviews over the years. I try not to buy just anything that comes out because like I said earlier, there's a lot of companies that are like, we're gonna make alcohol markers, and they produce a really crummy alcohol marker and then they pull it from the market, and I'm not interested in spending my hard-earned money on that. I would rather review good things that you guys might actually enjoy rather than crummy things that we all agree was a waste of my money. So I'm starting with the morning set first. And again, the colors in that set are Cream, Rose Champagne, Mango, Pale Turquoise, Umber, Steel Blue, Periwinkle, Marble, Gray Tint, Ice Pearl, English Rose, and Daisy, although not in that order. They're in the order that they were in the set, and I'll go over those with you guys in just a second. But as you guys can see, they are almost all pastels. There's a few darker browns. What I liked about this set is that usually when I'm teaching alcohol markers, I think about blending a lot. And for me, pastels, the lighter colors, make blending feasible. They make them possible. So when you buy like a basic set that's full of darker colors, it's actually much harder to do the sort of shaded blending that you might want to do. So I was really drawn to the colors in this pastel set. I thought they seemed very usable. I thought they seemed like they would be a good addition to the markers that I already have, or would work well as kind of a standalone set. There was a lot of skin tones or colors that could be useful as skin and skin shading tones in this set. So, you know, for a basic 12 color set, I thought this was a really great start. And then I ordered a few Openstock colors that I didn't seem to have in my Copic collection, or would help me better review the colors in the morning set. And you guys might have noticed there's no blender in this set, unlike the Graphite set, which is fine. I'd honestly prefer to receive more color. Maybe I should have also ordered a blender, but frankly, I have a lot of colorless blenders because I do try to order the colorless blenders when I'm reviewing markers, and I have a lot of them, so maybe I don't need more. These swatch fine with maybe a slight amount of bleeding. It's difficult to tell with such light colors. Now, I want to do something pretty and pearlescent for the field test. These have got me really inspired. So the colors at the top were all in the morning set: B64, BG54, BG93. I gotta check that one because I can't read it. BR42, G63, O25, Y44, V54, R115, R53, R34, and O44. And like I said, I really like the colors in the selection. You get some aquas, you get some oranges, you get a lot of pinks. Maybe a purple instead of the umber would be nice too, but it's still a really nice selection of colors. And you guys can see I picked out, or I purchased, some additional skin tones, some additional reds, just something to make the lineup just a little bit more flexible. And I really love Fig, which is that color all the way over, V92. So now we're going to do a little blending test and kind of put the brush to good use using the morning set. And I'm doing a rainbow style blend, and I'm just selecting colors in the order they appeared in the set. I'm not trying to make them meld into each other well at this point. And I have to say, the brushes are nice. They're comparable to a slightly more rubbery Copic, kind of like the old Spectrum Noir G2 replacement nibs, but not quite as rubbery as that. And even without trying too hard, blending some weird colors into each other's, these blend pretty nicely. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with these. And this inspired me to try a sunrise blend. So going from like a soft purple to yellow to blue. And they're not joking when they call this the morning set. They really lend themselves well to sunrises. So I thought then I would do just kind of a normal blend where I go from like yellow to maybe a darker red. Like I said, these are really fun and they're really easy to blend. The color selection for these is really well thought out. So next we're going to do some reactivity testing where we test out different alcohol marker blenders to see how well they react and how well they might play together. And this is going to give us an idea as to whether or not these would work well in kind of a mixed marker situation. So the solvents we're using are rubbing alcohol, Copic, Ohuhu, Artist Loft, and Blick. And we're using it on Opera Rose, which was maybe not the best choice on my part because Opera Rose tends to go very neon, which is pretty common for fluoro adjacent colors. And then it tends to dry back down. So it's going to look more reactive than it would be, and it kind of gives some false negative results in this instance. But I will say I feel like these markers do play well with other alcohol marker brands on the market. So if you find a good price on these and you decide to go ahead and get them, or if you live in a country where they're more common and more affordable, because they're not common in the US. I don't think I've seen them in any brick and mortar art supply stores, but you guys are all across the country and all across the world. Let me know if you guys have seen them out in the wild and how much they charge for them out in the wild. So all of these are fairly reactive. Some do cause the sketch markers to react unusually. The Ohuhu, the Artist Loft, and the Blick Studio all have vastly different effects on these markers. So now we're on to the ball shading part of our review and test. And I've selected several different colors. We're trying to go from yellow all the way to dark red, kind of like in that blending thing up at the top. And I'm using a Copic marker as my blender since I didn't buy a Sketchmarker blender in this instance. But I don't necessarily recommend, if you already have a bunch of alcohol markers, I don't recommend you buy the blender for every marker. I just do that because I test them out. So these are really blending reactive, and overblending is quite possible. And I mean that in the best way. I really like using my overblending technique for watercolor-like effects on thicker papers. So I say that is a good thing. You can really get some nice soft blends with these, and I'm really looking forward to the field test. So the pros for these is it has a very nice brush, foam rubber, maybe a little bit rubbery, but not too bad, very responsive and forgiving. It lays down a lot of ink, which I like. That's one of the things when I'm doing these reviews, like with the Tombow ABT, they were very dry, they were very scratchy. I was very frustrated trying to get an even layer of color. These are like the opposite of that. Juicy, but not too juicy. A great brush, great color selection that makes a lot of sense together. Whoever put these together put a lot of thought into it, which I always appreciate, because when you're spending money on art supplies, you don't want something you can't just use. You don't want to have to buy a bunch of extra stuff just to be able to use the thing, especially with markers. You want to get in there and start markering because you just spent a bunch of money and you got all these exciting colors and you want to make something pretty, and you'll be able to do that with the morning set. So the chisel is large and designed to cover large areas. It might be quite useful for architectural sketching. The cons, these don't seem to be commonly available. I've only seen them through Marker Universe, but I'll keep digging to see if I can find them from other sources. I've never seen them at a brick and mortar big box art supply store, which means if you want to buy Openstock colors on a whim, or if you want to buy replacements, you might not be able to do that. You might have to order them from Marker Universe. Marker Universe does have fairly fast shipping, but I don't know about you guys, but I like my things right here, right now, and I also like supporting local stores. The price is right on the borderline for me. These seem a lot like Copic chows, which usually go for about $3.90 Openstock on Blick. Both are about the same size, refillable, and have replaceable nibs. Openstock Sketchmarker Brush Pro markers are $5.39 per marker, which makes it difficult for them to compete with Copic. The price may go down if these become more popular. Because these are so juicy, they will probably blend through your paper. So you're going to want to work with a protective sheet underneath, especially if you work with a lot of layers. And Sketchmarkers seem like a fairly new brand, or at least new to the US, so availability may increase as it becomes more popular. Hey, don't touch that dial. This is a double header We have the field test coming up next, but first I want to go ahead and mark the colors I already own using their wonderfully laid out little sketch sheet. For something that's free, I really appreciate this. It's not too big, it could fit in the back pocket of your sketch markers, and it's a good way to track the colors you have, which I don't know about you guys, but I do buy duplicates by accident because I'm like, oh, figs, that's a name I haven't heard before. Let me buy another. Surprise, I've already got two because, hey, I think alike. I think alike like my past self. And what seems like a good idea now was probably a good idea when I was buying them originally. It's now time for the field test. In the past, I've broken up the reviews from the field test and used the field test as a bit more of a tutorial and a chance to really talk about the product. But for some of these more recent alcohol marker reviews, I wanted to combine the two because I know that when you guys are buying markers, you want to know if these things actually work and you don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the field test to come out. So the Graphit and the Tombow ABT reviews are all double headers and include the field test as well. You guys are welcome. So I'm going to do my colors picking, my color selecting using the swatch thing they gave. Usually with these reviews, I would pick my colors from, as you can see, my swatch is there at the top. And speaking of Graphit, that was the Graphit field test. This is my Sketchmarker field test. The beautiful colors in the morning set inspired me to do a beautiful unicorn girl. We're gonna go very pastel and very soft with this one. And this was sketched with Pilot Color Eno pink lead. So we're gonna do a bit of a lineless technique with this thing. So now that I've got my colors basically strategically picked, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And I am using it's gray tint, not marble, but it might be marble, but it might be gray tint. I'm using the lighter, cooler blue-gray to shade the tops of her eyes in this instance. We do have a nice, really cool blue, but I wanna save that for the hair and I don't want it to become too repetitive. I'm also using one of the really, really light peachy tones to color her skin. And I'm using my overblending technique for this, which is a good technique if you have a limited number of markers, and it works really well with pastels. I did a whole Monster Girl marker series a couple years ago where I really put the overblending technique to good use. And overblending can work really, really well on sketchbook paper. It works decently well on the Strathmore mixed media paper as well though. So next I'm going in with a really soft pink. It's probably E53 English Rose, and I probably started with R115 Daisy. And basically, once I get that, so I'm using the white of the paper as our lightest tone. And I'm blending out with the blending marker, the Copic Sketch in this instance, to kind of soften our lightest tone into that white so the transition isn't so striking. And I really utilize the brush for this, and I often press quite heavily on the brush for the over blending technique to get as much ink as possible on the paper so we can get those really soft watercolor-like blends. And I know this is a technique not everyone loves. It is not a technique that I use all the time, but it is a technique I really like because as someone who does a lot of watercolor art, I often want to bring elements that I love of that aesthetic to my other art forms as well. So it's just another trick in the bag, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. And I've already decided that I'm going to actually recycle this Fieldtest and show you guys in a longer version of this video how to do overblending. We're going to explain it a little bit better, and I'm also going to talk about doing rainbow hair or iridescent hair in markers because it's a really fun technique. I really like doing it, and the results are always very pretty. So I thought I would share that with you guys. So like I just said, we are doing rainbow hair from this, and basically that means kind of thinking strategically about your color and what colors might blend well into one another. And you want everything to be about the same intensity, about the same tone. Some can be a little stronger than others, but you want your intermediate colors, the colors in between your strong colors, to work well to bridge that gap. And I think I picked about 8 colors here. Most were from the morning set, but some were from the Openstock colors that I purchased, particularly Fig and Prawn. Is it Prawn or is it Salmon? Whatever. It's no, Indian Red is what they're calling it, but it's basically the same color as Copic's Prawn, so that's why I was thinking Prawn. Anyway, those are a couple of colors that I purchased, and they work really well for creating kind of this like brilliant sunrise hair. But most of the colors that I used for this review were from the morning set. So you should be able to recreate something kind of similar if you just have the morning set or if you just have colors like the morning set. I also wanted to do kind of soft rainbow, very anime eyes for her eyes. And I'm doing something a little bit unusual where we have very, not dark, but we have like cool influenced irises, and then the pupils are going to be really warm influenced since I wanted to go for kind of magical vibes. I'm also doing multicolor, very light color freckles using colors from her hair. So there's going to be blue and pink and green and purple freckles just to kind of add a little bit more magic to this. So I found these markers to be really fun to use. They're able to keep up with my overblending techniques where I oversaturate the paper. They blend really, really nicely. You do get a little bit of speckling, but that's pretty common with overblending techniques. They play really nice together. Like I said earlier, the color selection is really good. The brush was able to keep up with me without deteriorating or falling apart, unlike some other markers I might be able to name. The size is good. So they are smaller, slimmer markers, comparable in size to the Copic Chow, which probably means they hold less ink, but dang it, they were able to keep up with my coloring, unlike the Tombow ABT markers ABT Pro markers, sorry, that I reviewed recently. They're comfortable in my hand. I could see myself using these interchangeably with my Copic markers, or even like as a standalone set that I might bring with me to, say, conventions or to outdoor events, and just focus on doing like pastel types of commissions, which I'm sure would do pretty well, frankly, given my art style. I found the tip nuanced enough that I felt confident in doing her eyelashes with it, which is not normally me at all. I am Queen Shaky Hands, and normally I would be way too chicken to try that, but the brush just seemed to lend itself really well for that. I'm also kind of doing like a fake bouquet background using hexagons in different pastel colors, so oranges, yellows, purples, blues, that sort of thing, just to quickly do kind of like a faux magical background. You know, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to color the whole background in. And sometimes I'm like, life is too short to be coloring in the whole background. I'm going to doodle something or I'm going to sketch something. And this is kind of a cute way to do like fake magical background without having to invest too much time in it. And it works out okay, especially if you draw better hexagons than I do, because I sure am freehanding them with the brush. And my hands were pretty tired at this point, so I was not doing the best job. But these are a lot of fun. My number one biggest complaint is the price. They are so comparable to Copic Chow markers, and they cost like $2 more. And some people are like, well, don't compare it to Blick. But y'all are savvy shoppers. You're going to look online and in person for the best price possible. So I think it's only fair that I compare it to the best price possible. Back when I used to do the Sketchbox and the Art Snacks unboxings and reviews, people would get on me about how harsh I was regarding the price. But most artists I know are pretty broke. Most of us are lucky if we've got 2 quarters to rub together. Or we're hobbyists and we can't justify spending a lot of money on art supplies we might not use or might use infrequently or might not like. So to me, price is important. And at about $5.40 on Marker Universe, these are kind of pricey, especially compared to Copic Chow. Now, they do have a larger color range than Copic Chow, and they do have some of the features I really like from Copic Chow. But Copic Chow is still cheaper, and Blick Studio Brush is still cheaper. So I'd really like to see these offered more at the $4 a marker range. That I could like really get behind. Like, these are a great Copic alternative with a great color range, etc., etc., etc. The other problem I have is availability. Like I said, I've never seen these at a brick and mortar store. I've never gone into David's Art Supply or Plaza Art or Jerry's Artorama or Blick and seen these. But I live in kind of a limited geographic area, and you know, people on the West Coast get things I've never ever even heard about, and people up in New York get things I've never even heard about. So let me know if you guys have seen these out in person. So to kind of keep with the vibrancy of this illustration, I am inking on top of it using Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens. You guys have heard me sing their praises like a million times. So for as many times as I've cracked on Tombow ABT Pro markers today, Tombow, I still love you. Just fix your markers, all right? These things are great. They are Copic proof. They are alcohol marker proof. They are waterproof. You can ink before and not have any issues. You can ink after and not have any issues. They come in, gosh, they did come in 10 colors, and then they released a bunch of neon. So I want to say like 15 colors off the top of my head, plus black. So they are pretty great. They're pretty affordable. You can find them almost everywhere, honestly, like Amazon and Michael's, and you can go to get them at David's Art Supply, and you can get them probably through Blick, and I know you can buy them Openstock at Plaza. So a lot of different stores carry them, and that's one of the things I care about when I'm reviewing stuff is availability. I don't want to talk to you guys about this amazing art supply that none of you can get. I don't want to be like, neener, 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 aren't I so special? Look at me with my fancy stuff. I want to be able to be like, and you can go down to Michael's or you can go down to Plaza and you can get your own, or here's a link to Amazon. You can order them with Prime. I like telling you guys about awesome things I've found that you can also enjoy, because that's what's fun about art supplies to me, is sharing our favorites, talking about our favorites, sharing something really cool with someone who is looking for something really cool. And that's one of the things I love about my Discord server, the Paint Box. It's really geared, we have some digital artists, we love our digital artists, but we really geared a lot towards traditional media, traditional art supplies, and talking and geeking out about art supplies. So if you are as big an art supply fanatic as I am, or maybe you're on the fence, you're like, I don't know, I can maybe get into traditional art, I don't know. Come join us on the Paint Box. I'll put a link down in the description below. Artists of all skill levels are very, very welcome. We'd love to see the art that you make, and it's generally a very welcoming and warm community. A fairly small one, but just a very open and welcoming community. So come in, share your favorite art supplies with us, and share your art with us. All right, so the piece has now been inked. And if you guys are interested in learning how to do a colored line art tutorial, let me know down in the description below. I'm happy to do one for you guys, but I want to make stuff that you guys enjoy watching. So I need to hear back from you. What are you guys looking for? What do you guys like? So next, we're going to add in some white highlights using just a little bit of white gouache. You could totally use a white gel pen. I haven't found a white gel pen that I like. The Uni Signo white ones die on me within first use, and those were the best I'd ever found. So I mostly just pull out the good old white gouache and use that to add in white highlights here and there. And you know, you can get real complicated with gouache, or you can get real simple with gouache. I just dab it in the tube at this point, dab it in my water cup, mix it a little bit in the cap or on my Teflon surface that you guys see me working on, and then I just go ahead and I add in my highlights. And I cannot express to you guys enough just how much fun I had with this piece. The sketch markers were fun. You know, when you're like getting in the vibe of making art and you kind of forget what you're working with, you just do it. It's like the art supplies are an extension of your mind. These actually hit that point for me. And that's one of the things I love about good alcohol markers is they just, when they're good, they just do what I want them to do. They don't fight me. I don't have to do a bunch to get them to behave a certain way. And I'm really hoping that if sketch markers become more popular in the US, become more established in the US, we'll be able to find them at more places. We can find the refills and the replacement nibs in more places, and the price will go down a bit, because sometimes when it comes to imported products, the more popular they are, the more affordable they can be. So I think these could be a really solid Copic contender, which is unusual for me, but that price point has got to go down because the availability means these are like a needle in a haystack, and I hate to recommend something that I love that doesn't work super well. Blah. I don't know why I said doesn't work super well, sorry. I hate to recommend something that I love that you can't find. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. I don't know where my brain is right now. So anyway, I had a lot of fun reviewing these. I hope you guys had a lot of fun hanging out with me. If you're interested in the rainbow hair and overblending tutorial, let me know in the comments. I'm going to be working on that, but I love hearing from you guys. I love it when y'all are encouraging. And if you want to support my work in another way, you guys can join me over on Patreon. Get early access to videos like this one, as well as adorable line art. And that allows me to be able to afford to purchase these because I don't have any kind of sponsorship. Audible isn't sending me money. Sketchmarkers wasn't like, hey, Becca Hilburn / Natto Soup, we love her marker reviews, let's send her some. They don't know I exist. I'm reviewing these out of my own pocket, which I don't mind doing, but it can get kind of expensive, and your support on Patreon helps a lot. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this was helpful, useful, and inspiring, and I hope to see you guys again really soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye!